Good evening, everyone. Are you ready? Yeah. Are we ready to get started? Are we ready to see Congressman Keating? Yeah. Yes. Excellent. I can't actually say he's my favorite because I have two congressmen, Lynch and Keating, that represent my district. I'm Joan Moschino from the 3rd Plymouth District in Hull, and I'm delighted to be down here with you tonight to help facilitate Congressman Keating's town hall. So what we're going to do is I just wanted to run through a few housekeeping things, and then of course we're going to start with the Pledge of Allegiance, as we always do, in the national anthem, and then we're going to introduce the congressman. So first of all, thank you, everyone, after a busy day at work, for coming out here and actually, oops, let's see if I can do this. There we go, that's better. For participating in democracy. Honestly, yay! This is fantastic! You guys are amazing! I love it! So as I said, what we're gonna do first is we're going to have the Pledge of Allegiance, and I'm reading this because I want to make sure I get it correct, is that we're going to start with the Wareham High School Junior ROTC Honor Guard, and then the New Bedford City Councilor Shane Burgo will sing the national anthem after that. And then we'll go over a few logistics after we do that. But if we could start with our Pledge of Allegiance, let's see, where's our, is that, oh, here we go. Come on up. Let me just do this. Hold on one sec. We'll be happy to take that in 1 second. Let's just do the Pledge of Allegiance first, and then we'll do the national anthem. And then, where are you? Raise your hand so I know where to come. All right. And oh my gosh, everybody should join Shane in singing the national anthem, except for me because I can't sing. But so, come on up, gentlemen. Okay. So where's our honor guard? They're right here. Okay, all right. So where would you like them? No, they're in place. So our honor guard is in place. Not yet. All right. They're going to get in place. Okay, honor guard, please step into position.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And what's your name, dear?
I'm Quinn.
Quinn?
Quinn.
This is Quinn. Can you all say thank you to Quinn?
And to answer the question, yes, everyone please join. Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that Star-Spangled Banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave.
Can we retire the colors, please? Thank you so much to our wonderful honor guard. And wasn't that an amazing rendition of the Star-Spangled Banner? It really was wonderful. Okay. Excellent. Round of applause. Thank you. That was fantastic. And while we're at it, we have wonderful public safety officials here, and we want to thank the Wareham Schools for opening up this beautiful space for us as well. It's always the schools, right? This is where democracy starts. Okay, so they gave me a few ground rules, and they wanted to let you know how it was going to work tonight. And of course, it's tiny print, so forgive me. So first thing, we want to make sure everything goes smoothly. We're really going to try to make sure everybody had a chance to ask questions. We did receive all of the questions that were submitted, and really, to the people who did, thank you. And there were some really nice notes of thank you to Bill in there as well. So I do just want to say, what we'll do is we'll start off with a few of the questions, because they really fell into some key buckets. And then that'll give you guys a chance to get comfortable, a chance for the Congressman to sort of hit some of his points. But then we want to switch right to asking questions of the audience. So keep that in mind as we get started. Now, I will just say it's a great crowd. Really, thank you all for coming out tonight. And we do want to kind of try to facilitate it. So I am going to ask you, think town meeting, right? Yeah, I know. This isn't really the time for speeches. This is the time to really ask a congressman, what he's thinking and how to react, different things like that. So we're going to ask you to keep the questions kind of tight. And we'll go from there. So with that in mind, let's see. So I know you're all thinking the same thing. What can we do? And honestly, I get it, because as a state representative, I get that question all the time. And it's a big question, and it's a complicated question, and it's a question that's going to evolve over time. So that's probably not the place to start. But ask what you need to ask. And then, let's see, so did we get out all the tickets? Did everyone get a ticket that wanted to get a ticket? Just want to make sure. Okay, I don't see any hands. All right, so that's good. And then what they're going to do is they'll be selecting the tickets at random. And then if your number is called, then we just ask that you step to the microphone quickly so that we can maximize everybody's opportunity. And then what we're going to do, as I said, was the Congressman is going to begin tonight with 4 questions on topics that he's already heard on tons of things from, and it really did run the gamut on medical research, on Department of Education. There was things on DOGE, of course, but there's a lot. So we'll start with a few of the big ones that we already heard from, and then we'll go from there.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the town. It's not on?
Yeah, don't be shy.
Okay.
Step closer to it. I know this is the hardest thing for polite women, but we have no time to be polite.
If you live in Wareham, I speak up. Okay, let me try again. Good evening and welcome to the town of Wareham's High School Auditorium for a chance to have your voices heard. Congressman Bill Keating has a lifelong involvement in the political arena. He was first elected to the Massachusetts House of Representatives in 1977 when he was about 2. And in 1985 was elected to the Massachusetts Senate. In 2010, he was elected to the 112th United States Congress, and since then, he has served the 9th Congressional District with distinction. That district includes the South Coast, the South Shore, and the Cape and Islands. Today, he is a senior member on the House Committee on Foreign Affairs Subcommittee on Europe, as well as on the House Committee on Armed Services. He also serves on the Congressional LGBTQ Equality Caucus. The Pro-Choice Caucus, and the Counter-Kleptocracy Caucus. He is known as a champion of issues such as making nuclear energy plants safer, education, supporting federal funding for coastal resiliency. In 2024, he was a key speaker at the Veterans Day Parade and ceremony here in Wareham, and we're very grateful for that. Wareham is a community, like many in the Congressman's district, that faces fiscal constraints, rising sea levels, an aging wastewater treatment plant and infrastructure, as well as challenges imposed by the Commonwealth of Massachusetts concerning local control and unfunded mandates. We look forward to having the Congressman continue to support his constituents. And with that, I welcome Congressman William Keating.
Hold on.
Where's my mic?
I think this is yours, right here. I know, a rock star. All right, now, before he jumps in, one little thing I just want to note that, I know that sometimes we get questions on official positions, because this is an official congressional event, the Committee on House Administration prohibits any member or staff from communicating or directing any calls to action. So I just want to say that out loud because you're exuberant and excited, and I just want to make sure if there's a question that comes up and the Congressman declines to answer it in that vein, you will understand and respect that he has a professional responsibility. So without further ado, though, I am turning it straight over to Congressman Bill Keating, our rock star.
I hope this is working well. Can everyone hear out back? It's fine. It's a little different here. I guess what Joan was just talking about, I can't tell people to take the streets and demonstrate. I can't tell people to, fill up the phone lines. I can't tell people to do things that maybe. So now you know.
Bill, this is a smart audience. They can figure that piece out
I
on their
think you get the
own.
drift of that anyways. I want to thank Joan. We have so many levels of government just in the introduction. It's so great. So Representative Moschino, thank you so much. You got the hardest job in the House. And then Shane did a great job, and he represents New Bedford so well in the council. And then Judith, of course, so many people in Wareham know the work she does as selectman. So we have all those levels of government. I want to thank you so much for being here. The frightening thing is if we had this and no one came. That would be the death knell to the things we're talking about. But as we're here safely and gathering safely, I'd like to thank personally and maybe join in, I hope, thank our local police here in Wareham. This is just so great. Thank you. Coming from a family where my dad, and part of his career was a police officer, my brother was, and my niece still is in the district here as a police officer. It's a hard job, so thank you so much. Thank you all for being here. Look, we want to get to the questions quickly. I'll give you one brief framework to just put all the other things we're talking about into some kind of perspective. It's something I think you know. But we're at a time of great crisis. And I'm not exaggerating in my own mind. I'm not being hyperbolic here. This is the greatest, in my opinion, and I'm not alone, this is the greatest crisis we've faced in terms of democracy since perhaps a civil war. And that's what we're talking about. It's real.
Yeah.
It's real. This isn't something where, let's see how it is tomorrow. The things that are happening right now are creating damage. Some of that damage may never be able to be mitigated, and some of it might take decades. So we have to work together to do everything we can to make sure that doesn't happen in our country. The people that started this country, now someone might ask a question about the 1798 Alien Enemies Act. Who knew we'd be talking about that, right? But let me go before 1798 just to frame this. The founders of our country, before that, they came from a system where the king ruled. And as they were coming together with the first country that was created on an idea, they wanted to make sure that that wasn't replicated. And they wanted to have a government for the people. And so they put checks and balances on those people that were governing them. And the major checks were a scheduled election, where that power that was given would be given back to the people in either 4 years or 2 years or 6 years, whatever the term might be, and they get to choose again what's going on. The other check dealt with Congress having a check over one executive who might take dictatorial powers, take things into our hands, and make sure there was a check that way. And of course, the other check is our courts. And look what's happening right now. Look at what happened in January 6th, and people have changed the whole history of that. I was there. And I knew what that was about. As Liz Cheney, just so we can be bipartisan here, as Liz Cheney said, and there's a person of great courage. I served with her in the Armed Services Committee. And I would put her down, if you want to say what a real conservative is, the traditional conservative. She was probably the most conservative people I served with among them. And it just shows you that the issue we're talking about truly is deeper than that. It's deeper than the traditional conservative, the traditional liberal. But Liz Cheney said, and she was right, when it came to that one check on January 6th, she said, Donald Trump summoned the people to the Capitol that day. He assembled those people, and he lit the flame for what happened. And I was there, and so as we're looking at the check on our scheduled elections and free and peaceful transfer of power, we're in a crisis. Not just from that day, but look what's happening now in that, as a result of that. The people, over 1,500 people that were charged and convicted, most of them pleaded guilty, and the others were convicted, and they were pardoned. Pardoned for the violence that hurt 140 or more police officers. Some of those people died. Some of those people will never be able, because they were injured so severely, served. One woman had acid put on her face. These are the things that they put up with. And to pardon those people, it just undercuts the rule of law as well as everything else that's being done. So that check of government's in crisis. And look what's happening now with local electors around the country and how they're politicizing elections, how they're threatening those people like my relatives growing up. It used to be a great day of celebration when I was young, when there was election day. People would go to the polls and have cake sales, and everyone would be friendly with each other. But now across the country, those people that volunteer those services, they're threatened, and their families are threatened. The other crisis is Congress. This administration is just running roughshod over the Constitution and over the statutes that are there to provide a check and balance, and we'll be talking about that with a lot of issues, I think, as the rest of the day goes on, or the evening goes on. And lastly, who would have thought the courts are in crisis right now? J.D. Vance said, and he said, well, what are the courts going to do if we don't adhere to the law? They don't have the power to do anything about it, and that's a real question. And that question really comes to the idea that we are in constitutional crisis, because what happens if they don't do that? We're seeing a standoff right now with the judge, district court judge, who merely is trying to enforce the law and get the facts in front of him so he can make a decision. And they're stonewalling that, including our Attorney General, including a president that said that judge should be impeached for just doing his job the way he's supposed to do under the rule of law. So all three of those things are under crisis. So as we talk about things this evening and look at that, let's look at that framework, because all these other issues are critical. All these other issues affect people directly, but also we have to remember all of these issues affect all of us who want to have a democracy in this country that so many people sacrifice so much for to get us to where we are now. So we'll get to the questions. Thank you so much.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Congressman. You're fantastic. So as I look around the room, what I thought we would do is just to get everyone comfortable and get the Congressman going, not that you need to, we'll just start with a few questions that you submitted online. Thank you, thank you. I mean, there's a ton of questions here, and they fall into some nice buckets, but given the crowd, I thought we might start with Social Security. Sorry, that's me too, babe. Me too. But where are the young people? Are there any young people? I want to see if you, okay. All right. There we go. That's what we're talking about. All right. So we're going to start with Social Security, and then I'm going to ask a question about education, and then maybe we'll toss it out to the audience, and now that gives the Congressman's staff a chance to figure out how we do that. So we're going to start with Social Security. There's a bunch of questions here, Bill, and it's really all boils down to, what are you and the Democrats doing to ensure Social Security payments are not interrupted, reduced, and that Social Security isn't privatized? I think that's a big question on everybody, and in my district in particular. So I thought we might start there.
Well, thank you. Look, I'll tell you my opinion. That's what you elected me for. It's based on my experience. And I've got to tell you that people I serve with, long before Donald Trump was elected, even the first time, many of those people on the Republican side, it's just the way it is, have a different view of Social Security. They have been looking for avenues to undercut Social Security. Some of the ideology goes back to the 1930s or so, because it's socialism and there's difficulty, have problems with that, and the government can't deal with it. But now it's under greater attack given everything else that's going on. I think they're attacking Social Security in many ways, and they're doing it not as a direct attack, because if they do that, I think we'll have 3 times the people here overnight that are here too. And for the young people here, this is an issue that affects you too. But I think they're going to come in to the attack on Social Security on a number of ways. One of the ways they're already doing it is the cuts in Social Security administration, because that affects our service. That affects us getting our checks on time. It affects people that have questions. I would say between veterans issues and Social Security, the most common questions and calls we get to our office are in those 2 categories. People just want answers. They want to know, and there's delays. And the idea that DOGE, making government efficient, I've got to tell you this, Social Security Administration is only 1% of the budget. Can you name another agency in all of government that's that big, that the administration is that small? There isn't any. And it's an insurance plan. So if you looked at private sector types of insurance plans, do you know what the administration is on that? 15 to 20%. Social Security is being run very efficiently. It is. The trouble we have is the administration isn't funded enough to get those people to help us in a timely fashion. And we know that right in our office with the delays that are there getting answers on so many questions. And by the way, when we get questions and we try and help other people, the people that were there to help us, they were fired too. So now we're going to have a much more difficult task helping the people I serve here do it. So they're cutting the administration. Now, they're also making the offices more remote at the same time. They're cutting the number of offices. We don't know exactly where. They get so many per state, and that's going to come out as it unfolds, but they've made clear they're cutting those offices, they're cutting the number of people in those offices, and it's going to make it worse in terms of dealing with Social Security. And I think they're going to key in on Social Security disability. They're strategic in what they're doing. They're going at something where they can look for areas where they can try and, I think, demagogue some of the issues that might be individual instances. They're going to go, I think, and make many people report to those offices that are further away that they can't get to. They're going to make them do things online, which a lot of senior citizens just can't do or don't have the broadband in that particular area to do it. And they're taking away the 800 number that some people could get to. They're making that more difficult that way, and they're going to key in on people. They're going to try to do things, I think, with Social Security disability. Well, you have to show you're working, you have to show up, you have to do these other things. And that's going to be, in my opinion, the way they go in. They want Social Security privatized. Many of my colleagues want that, and as much as they say at election time, they don't. I know that they do from conversations that I've had and I've heard. So these are all important things, Joan. We have to safeguard it. The other thing is, we can't just say there's no problems with Social Security and we're doing nothing about it, because Social Security it's solvent now, but it will run out in a number of years as the baby boomers age and we go through that. And I sponsored and co-sponsored a bill called Social Security 2100, which will push that solvency decades further than this and allow enough flexibility even for cost of livings in a timely fashion. And it's going to fund it in large measure because they'll take that cap on the wealthiest people off of Social Security.
That's right.
And I mean, most of us in this room have the Social Security taken out through the whole year. But at a certain cap, as I think most of you know, and it's a pretty high one, it's like 300, 400,000 now, somewhere in that vicinity. You know, after that, you don't have to pay anymore. Why is that? And that would help fund the things I'm talking about and make it more solvent.
Yeah.
I could go on an hour with that bill, but I want to get to as many questions. But be concerned, be on guard. We are. And number two, we plan to do something to make it better.
Yeah. Yeah.
Social Security 2100, which I just talked about.
Yeah.
The bill has been
All right,
there.
all right. If we're going to get through all the questions, let's
Just
let's
because
settle down a
I'll
little
just
bit.
do it because
We
I
heard
think
you,
it might
but
be a
go right ahead.
reoccurring thing,
Yeah,
Joan.
Yep.
Just because a bill's not passed doesn't mean we're not doing anything. You know, you got to remember, it's the majority of people in Congress passing the bill, and we don't have the majority now. But we are pushing forward in spite of that, because I think if people are going to be called out on destroying Social Security, we're going to call them out, but we're also going to say we can do better, and that's the point.
That's right. Yeah. Well, so that's a great point. And if you want to speak to a little bit about how you're doing the organizing, hold on,
All right,
because everyone wants to. Everyone
We'll go
wants
through the
to
questions,
hear.
Joan, and then
Yeah.
there'll be an overlap where I'll get
We'll
into
do
issues
some of the
too.
things. So we talked about Social Security a little bit, and there's also some young people in this room. So I thought what we'd do is jump to Department of Education. The theme of these questions is, how can they eliminate Department of Ed without congressional approval, and what's coming, what can we expect?
Well, they can't eliminate the Department of Education without congressional approval legally. And if they attempt to do that, there'll be court challenges. As you know, there are over 100 court challenges already, and most of them are being won by the people bringing them forward against the Trump administration trying to do that. So that's one area where the court cases are good, and that's one area they can't deal with, just eliminating the Department of Education. What they are doing, and this is just something that he signed today, so the details might not always be as in front of us, even when they're supposed to be in front of us. They're eliminating that today but it's not a total elimination. They will move functions over, and they'll try and deal so they avoid the legal sanctions that would go in place if they tried to eliminate it totally. But in fact, they are eliminating it. They're just trying to put a skeletal organization together such that they'll be able to avoid these legal challenges. And this is the crazy thing. In a place like Massachusetts or other states where there's the property tax and we fund a lot of our schools a different way, the statistic in New York comes to mind first. The percentage of overall education money that comes from the federal government for New York that they spend is about 5%. But in Mississippi, it's 73%. 73% of all the money they spend in education comes from the federal government. So these monies they're cutting from education, and if you do the demographics, so many of the people that represent these states that are going to get decimated with these cuts come from areas where people are represented by supporting what's being done, by supporting what Musk is doing, by supporting what Trump is doing in this regard. So it's crazy. And I hope that somehow in those districts they have meetings like this, although they're told not to have them anymore. But this is something that I find amazing. They're cutting themselves worse than they are otherwise. Now, there's another thing I'll talk about because I'd like to share my insights. Otherwise, you could just, watch the news. And some of these are things that I believe. Some of them are, I believe they're correct. But you have to ask yourself, too, why are they targeting the Department of Education? Because they are targeting one agency after the other after the other. And believe me, they have a long game plan here. But they're picking on things on the front end. Well, I believe part of it is they think that this is part of an ideological agenda that they have. They just don't like education. They don't like the type of education that they're getting or perceived to be getting in the schools. They want something different. And there's a whole wing of those people ideologically that think they should be like Christian type of schools. Let's face it. They say that. They think it should be private money and they could take their own schools with their own ideology and just leave everyone else to the side. So it's more than just money when they're targeting education. I think they're targeting the ability that so many people like myself that went to public schools and had a public school education had a terrific foundation that's in place. And in doing so, sadly, I think so many of them are denying a good education for the people that they serve in their districts. But eliminating the Department of Education, it's not about money, I don't believe. It's deeper than that.
Yeah. Thank you, Bill. Okay, so we passed out tickets to people who had questions when they came in, and I just randomly, because there's nothing else on here, I have 753348. So look at your ticket to see if that is yours. And the only thing I'm just going to say is a lot of people took tickets, so we're going to try to go through them. And then we're saving sort of the Doge stuff for the end so that Bill could really talk about it a little bit more length. But does someone have that ticket? It's 753348.
We'll get to that, I will.
Yeah.
John, make sure we get to
yeah.
the board issue.
The lady in front was asking about the Supreme Court, a hugely important topic, and Bill will get to that. No, so no ticket. Okay. Oh, you found it? 348. Oh, okay. The only thing we just ask is try to ask a tight question. Oh, I'm so glad it was you, sir, because you wanted to ask more. Yes, there it is. There's the microphone. So just try to keep the question nice and tight so that we can get as many as we can.
So we're 60 days into this, and it still seems like Democrats are scrambling. Like there's no clear, comprehensive, working class vision for your party. You guys seem wayward souls. What is your approach to get other people in your party to get together and do whatever you need to do, because it just seems like there's no message from you guys that is helping us. You can tell us not to go in the streets because of your committee assignment, but we're sort of just left rudderless. There's no clear, comprehensive plan from Democrats from what we can see, and we're 60 days in. That's 60 days too long.
Thank you so much, sir.
Well, thank you so much. I want to go before 60 days and just remind people, even though now it's too late, the Democrats had a lot to say before November. They were telling people about Project 2025. They were telling people what Donald Trump would do if he was in office, and so many people sat home and didn't vote and didn't get involved or let inter-party rivalry, dissension within the party, not take place. So the Democrats' message, believe me, was there. It was a clarion call for what could happen and, unfortunately, what is happening right now. But again, that's yesterday, and now we're in today. So what do we have to work with? We don't have the House majority. We don't have the Senate majority. And we don't have the White House. And it's really sad in the House because, in my opinion, in North Carolina alone, where they had illegal redistricting and it was recognized as unconstitutional, but the Supreme Court said, well, so close to the election, we'll just have to let it go. Those 3 seats would be the difference with us having the majority. And I just mention that because it's so important to know what's going on with the courts, with redistricting, and with elections this way. We would have been in the majority and would have made quite a difference because we would have been able to stop. Please, are we going to have 500 different questions all at once? I can't process that much. So I want to continue my answer if I could. So we're here right now, and we're at a time when we have not the majority so that we can stop funding, not the majority, and this is really an important thing we lost, oversight. We can't have people come in and answer questions. We have 2 committees that can subpoena people in all the time, and it's usually judiciary and it's oversight. They have tried to subpoena Elon Musk in to answer the questions and be accountable for what he's doing, and in committee they lose those votes. But we're going to keep trying that, but they're losing the votes. It's very important. Elections have consequences, and that's where we're dealing with it. So what are we doing? We're working through the courts, even though we don't have standing ourselves. We're working with all our allied groups on these issues. We've had over 100 court cases, and we've won almost all of them. And that's good. Yeah. But I hope I get to another point. That's in jeopardy, and I hope I can get to that when we talk about budget issues. So that's one issue. We're also working in Congress to the extent we can with legislation. We can file it. We can get as many people to be co-sponsors. If we get enough on the other side, we could discharge things maybe to get it to the floor. But I was in the Massachusetts legislature like Joan was, and this is different. When the party that wins in the House, they control everything. I can't get an amendment on a bill that's going through without their approval. They can say simply, no, it's not going on. So we're really, really at a terrible point of having to do things from a congressional standpoint, but we're still putting in legislation. One of the things that was the first things that we put in, and I think every Democrat member signed on to this, was dealing with that privacy issue with Elon Musk, with what he's doing, and having someone that's unelected, he hasn't gone through the process of even oversight with the Senate. He's someone that is unconfirmed, and frankly, he's unqualified, and we can't get him in there to answer questions. But we put in legislation to protect the fact that the privacy that's there is protected, that those people that are there, the people he brought in, some of them totally unqualified, some of them that had problems in their past working for cyber companies where they betrayed the confidence back, those people shouldn't have it. The sad news is with that, they've already had access to this, and we don't know because of the lack of accountability whether they already put a back door that they can get in this information someday. We don't know if that's been transferred. But as I look around this room, our medical information, our prescriptions, our personal information is all there. There's millions of cyber attacks in the course of a day from other countries and from other commercial groups trying to get in there to get that information. And to get qualified to do that, you have to go through a screening process. They even hired a firm to make sure that's secure. And the firm that they hired said these people shouldn't be near the information. And they just ignored it. And probably that firm is gone. So we're fighting in the courts, we're doing what we can in Congress, and we're working in issues like this, and I can't have a call of action under the rules, to try and tell people that we're listening, that their voice is important, and if you exercise that in the way that democracies do, that is extremely important. Look what happened when they took down, even in recently, they took down the picture of an iconic picture of the Iwo Jima flag raising. And they took it down because a Native American was part of holding that flag. They took down Jackie Robinson's picture. Look what happened when the public gave their opinion. They put that right back up. And so don't think that you're without power, because you are.
Oh, thank you. Oh, we've got a lot of questions, but hold it for the end, and I'll come back to you. So it's... Yeah. I don't know if you all heard that, but the message is not a status quo, and Bill's never been a status quo guy. Thank you, sir. So number 361 is next, and while you make your way forward to the microphone, number 403 will be next. So where's, who has 36, it's 753-361. Aha, right here, over. And thank you guys for being brave enough to step forward and ask questions. It's not that easy in public. Okay. But we sure appreciate it. It's democracy.
I'd appreciate hearing your opinion on the recent apparent reversal of Senate Minority Leader Schumer.
Thank you.
Okay.
I'll repeat the question for those in the back. It was my opinion on what she said was the reversal of Senator Schumer, sorry, Chuck. So my position on this is pretty clear because I had a vote on it, and my vote was vote no. And this will get to the question I just wanted to tell you. I voted no. Chuck Schumer, and this is why so many people, I mean, we don't have amnesia with what Mitch McConnell did using his status in the Senate. When it came to appointments, when it came to holding things up, when it came to a Supreme Court appointment that should have been made in a timely fashion, it was outrageous the way they abused it. So I understand that aspect of it. I'm not in the Senate, but I voted no, and I'll tell you why I voted no, too. And this is, I'm glad, some of the things I wanted to get to, I'm able to get through in another question, and that's this. That bill that we had was called by the Republicans a continuing resolution. Now, for those, I didn't know what a continuing resolution was until I was in Congress, so don't worry. It's really an inefficient way when government can't come to decisions in a budget in a timely fashion. What they do is kick the can down the road, and they'll say, all right, we'll just fund government the way it is for another 2 or 3 months, and then try and see if we can come to a decision. It's very wasteful. It's a sign of government dysfunction all the way around, and it should really be avoided, but it's not. This bill wasn't that. They called it. They said, well, it's either fund this till the end of the fiscal year, which in this case is fiscal year is the end of September in the U.S. House, and we'll just continue on, even though we can't do a budget. Even though the Republicans said they would do a budget, and that's what they ran on, they didn't. But this is the important thing, and it wasn't publicized very much. In that congressional resolution, if you want to call it even that budget bill, I'll call it, they made cuts, and they changed things around so it wasn't pro rata, it wasn't the way some others are. But that wasn't bad enough, and that wasn't the reason I was really fundamentally against this. And what bothered me the most about this, in that bill, for the first time that anyone could remember, they worded the language differently. We're winning these court cases because there's language in what the money that was appropriated that Musk is just running roughshod over that says, you know, it's an instruction from Congress not only to spend the money, but what to spend the money on. And that language is very important because these court cases are being won because of that constitutional issue. When they did this budget, they used different language. They put money down, they put agencies, but they didn't put the instructive language that said Congress, basically, I'm paraphrasing to make it in layman's terms, Congress says spend it on this. So the way Trump is running things now, that's just like giving him a blank check for the end of the year to spend it any way he wants. And the argument, and I understand it among some, and this was the argument in the Senate when they didn't use the 60% rule, was, well, it's going to be worse if we don't vote for this because then Donald Trump will be able to use emergency powers and have whatever he wants. Well, my view was the bill gave him everything he wanted. So if it was going to happen, it was going to happen. And so that's why I voted that way. Senator Schumer had a different idea. But that language was the key. Those are the things that, you know, when you're looking at a news clip or something very quickly, aren't really front and center. Some of you might have known it. Some of you know it now. But that, to me, was the difference. I probably would have voted for it instead of, I'm not going to shut government down and hurt people and have funding cut. That's as drastic as it gets. Yet, when you're handing over the reins of how to spend that to someone that's spending it this way, then there's no alternative. So that's why I did that. And that gave me a chance to explain how important that budget bill was. And I hope it doesn't affect these court cases the way I think it might. There's some legal people that think it might affect the pending ones even. Some will think it'll clearly, to some extent, affect the other ones. So I hope that's not the case, but that's why I voted no.
Excellent. Thank you, Congressman. Is 403 is right here. Yes.
My name is Alexi Redman. I live in Dartmouth, and I do coastal climate research. My question for you is, what are you doing to advocate for the science that saves lives here, and how are you fighting for my future?
Great
Thank
question.
I think one of those clips you saw was at Woods Hole, where we had the National Day of Science. It was a bitterly cold day, and I know some people that were there. I know I ran into them. The question was the concern and what can we do about climate science and what's happening to climate science, as well as science generally. I think we could, is that fair enough? Because it's an attack on science. And on a blisteringly cold day, there were over 400 people out there, and it was only given like 48 hours notice. Thank goodness people care about that. But this is how, it's been very difficult even before this administration. They were striking language, and I just do this to just bring a point forward. When they were doing statutes, even before Trump, and they were getting them through the Republicans, they were cutting out the words climate change, and they were putting weather patterns. No, weather patterns, because they don't believe there's climate change. And the new, Lee Zeldin, who's the new EPA director, who I served with, he is, just to the core, he is making the official policy one that climate change does not affect humans' health. No, I'm not making this up. That's how fundamental this is. Besides taking us out of the Paris Accords, besides the cuts that they're doing. And this is what they're doing, for instance, on the grants that are coming. You know, I look carefully at the transportation grants and things. They are taking and using computers, and they are looking for the words in any pending grant. And if the word climate is there and the word environment is there, they're pulling all those pending grants back for further review.
Please be
Thank you.
respectful.
So-
Please be respectful and let the congressman finish.
So, all right, here's what.
Be respectful.
Here's that. So here's where we are, and yeah, we're working again. So I'm going to be repeating this every time you interrupt everyone, but if that's the way we want to spend this time, it's your time. But the point is, we're working through the courts, we're working through Congress, we're working, getting groups without, I can't go to call of action in this. We're doing that, all those things, because that's what we can do. Don't ask us to do what we can't. How productive is that to ask people to do something that pragmatically you can't do? Really? Be honest here. I wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning worried about this stuff. So don't think that I'm not alone. So again,
Be respectful.
your time is cutting in on this lady's time on, I think, one of the most important issues we can talk about, because this attack on science has enormous effect on our economy, on our health, and it has enormous effect for the generations to come financially. And what they're doing with dig is ridiculous anyways. These oil companies just met at Trump yesterday in the White House, according to reports, and they didn't want to tell him that the only way they're going to invest, they came out afterwards and some of them talked to reporters, I guess. They said the only way they're going to invest in more exploration in the U.S. is if prices are higher, because right now we're the world's greatest exporter of oil in the world, the United States. So this idea that we have to dig up our coastlines, allow offshore drilling, trade over our national parks and those treasures, and allow that to be exploited for oil or gas digging or mining or whatever they want. It's a phony-based principle. It's there because there were promises made to billionaires that I'm on your side if I get elected. And that's what that's about. And you know what? We're going to continue through all the means we can, and I'm on about every caucus you could imagine in this regard. And coming from this district, a coastal district that's so fragile, I see it every time there's a storm. Doing away with NOAA and NOAA scientists is outrageous. I mean, these are people that guarantee our safety. They tell us where it's safe to navigate. They tell us where there's storms. They tell us where there's surges. To get rid of FEMA is outrageous too. And just say, oh, it's the state's responsibility. There's certain things the states can't do in a disaster that we do otherwise. So at that fundamental Lee Zeldin point, he's wrong. He's just wrong. And we're going to call him out. We're going to try and make sure we do it. But you know who could be helpful in this guy? Who's very quiet, and I don't think this is a call to action. I got to be careful because this will be viewed. But there's people on the private sector side that know this. And they know this. And instead of saying, you're wrong, the investments we're making are on the other side of this. They're quiet. You know why they're quiet? And this is important to stress here today. I have people come to my office and they'll say, this is a problem. People in business, I'm having this problem, or I'm worried about the tariffs. And I said, well, have you told anyone else about it? They said, I'm afraid I'll be targeted. This is what's happening in our country too, and it's really going to hurt on the environmental side of things as we try to do everything we can do to charge. We need more than ourselves. You know, in Massachusetts, only 25% of the people here are Democrats. Of the voters in Massachusetts, only 25% are Democrats. So if you think we're going to be successful just getting Democrats, 25%, to change everything, we're not. We're going to need more than Democrats. We're going to need other people to get involved and to work on this as well. The good thing about the environmental issues, from an economic standpoint, the private sector knows this. They've been investing in these things. They know what Donald Trump doesn't know. And I think we'll be able to be successful, but every day that goes by, we're losing a day. And if we go further with the damages, it's going to be even worse. To me, just look, if you want to go home and Google how many people die because of poor air quality.
So I know we have a lot of questions in the back, and I
Thank
can see people are raising their hands, and I know it's 7:30, but the Congressman's going to stay and continue to answer questions for a while. So I just want to make sure, if you need to go, please do not feel that you can't, but please do stay. And the next question I pulled up was from 375 is the last three numbers. And then maybe we'll do one after that, 389. And then we'll turn back to some of the questions that hadn't gotten answered yet. But do not feel bad. It's 7:30. If you have to go, we understand that.
Thank you all for coming, the
Yes.
people that are leaving.
375, are you still here? Yes, right here. Okay, great. And then 389, if you could just come forward and be ready. And do not feel bad if you have to go, because we know we're at time, but the Congressman's here to continue answering, continue the conversation. And then what I'm going to do is turn it back to him to make a closing statement.
We'll be here
For a while.
good half hour, just so you
Yes,
have an
we'll be
idea.
here.
So I know over time there's been a number of opportunities. Over time, there's been a number of opportunities to have closed, I think, some of what is happening, but there doesn't seem to really be an impetus by the membership to vote things like term limits, money out of politics, no insider trading. So I'm curious if the situation that we're in right now has given people a little bit more of an impetus to potentially take actions that are in our best interest instead of theirs.
Well, thank you. Quickly with term limits, I actually believe that the Republicans in the House had a good idea. They put limits on how long someone can be chairs of committee, those powerful committees. And I think that has been very healthy. And it's something I've endorsed on our side that enough people aren't quite there yet on. And I think that really solves the term limit issue, these people just hanging on because they have these powerful chairmanships and they don't want to leave. On the issue of money in politics, everything we talked about here tonight is rooted in that. So I'm glad that question was asked, because that is one of our fundamental problems in this country. Donald Trump's administration has no less than 12 billionaires. 12 billionaires. There's this oligarchy that's being formed, and it's very real. The contributions that are coming in, he's targeted $500 million by June. And he's bringing people in by the dozens. And he's not happy with $1 million. He wants $10 million, according to reports. And he's telling these people, and it's just been reported, so I'm just going by reports. I wasn't there. It's been reported that he has a list of the people after January 6th that stopped funding him. And they might have started again, and he's going back and saying, you better catch up. You better do more. You're on the bad list. I mean, and so you have the conflicts that exist with all these billionaires. And you know what they did? The people in this administration, they did something that goes back, it's been the case since 1961, John Kennedy's first term, where they took an ethics pledge, if they're part of the administration, not to be involved in their own conflicts. Donald Trump did away with that requirement for his administration, and then they went back further and went back maybe over half a century looking at other controls on corruption and conflicts of interest that exist. He himself doesn't have what every other president in the last half century have done, a blind trust. He knows he's funding, he's getting his own money. When he has these memes, people from any country, anyone trying to influence, they can invest in that. They can invest in Truth Social that he's using so that he spreads most of his news through that source. That's publicly traded. People can give money to that, and he profits from that. Elon Musk is sitting there profiting, and he's just maxed out his contributions to the 6 or 7, I don't know how to describe them, congressmen that put in a bill to impeach the judge who's just trying to do his job with the Venezuelan airplane that went to El Salvador. Just maxed out with money. He's given, when he did this promotion, it was reported, of the Teslas, what he called Teslers. Teslas, I don't know what he was confusing, I'm not going to go there. Maybe two different names. But the Teslas that were there, what a coincidence. It was reported Elon Musk gave $100 million at the same time to his campaign. So the conflicts are ripe. Elon Musk shouldn't be in that position. He is a walking, talking conflict of interest, aside from what else he's doing. He should not be in that position, and he should not have these conflicts. They are so rampant, it is unbelievable. He's one of he's received in his life $38 billion or more in federal assistance. And he's the self-made person. And by the way, he got here lying about being here legally. He was here illegally. He lied about going to Stanford, and he lied then. But the conflicts he had, just before he was in office, there were 5 different agencies investigating him. He's got over 100 different contracts, 17 different agencies. He's been at loggerheads, and there's nothing. Here's the.
Respectful.
I'm not going to shout over you, please.
Respectful, please. Respectful. No crosstalk. No, absolutely not.
And you bring up a very good point here, and I just want to address it. Legally, Elon Musk is exempt from the conflict of interest law because he's a quote-unquote special government employee. And you know who else is exempt? Donald Trump, because he's president, and for that matter, J.D. Vance. They're exempt from the conflict of interest law. And by the way, look at the Justice Department now. The people that investigate these things, they're not going to go investigating them. That made that clear. And we had something in place that was one of the greatest safeguards for conflict of interest and efficiency, and that was inspector generals. They're supposed to serve terms that go beyond every individual term. He's fired 17 of them. He's fired them. So there's no check on what exists there. And so I don't lose this one point, when we're talking about Elon Musk and we're talking about government efficiency, I can tell you right now where we can save over $600 to $700 billion of fraud. And we can do it so easily. And it's already proven itself just in the last year or so when it was in place.
So
600 to 700 billion savings. You know what that is? Fund the IRS people that audit the accounts of the corporations and the richest people. There was just in the short time that we funded those people, that we got over close to $2 billion recovered for people that were cheating on their taxes and not doing it. They're firing those people. It's a target, and they put a guy in that's in charge of it that was actually part of an industry that was co-opting those kind of activities. So if you want to be efficient, you want to stop fraud, don't fire the IRS people that audit these accounts, because the rest of us are getting audited through computers and things. They're getting audited. Their odds of getting audited are next to nothing, and they know it. And so that's one thing we could do as well.
So, Bill, we have one more question over here from the pile, sir. And then there's a ton of questions on Doge and a lot of checks and balances and things like that. Sir, I'd love to have you first, and then maybe we can go to the huge pile that was submitted online. Oh, no. We asked people to participate under certain rules. We had well over 60 people who submitted online, and we're not going to go back on how we said we'd do
Show
that.
them that it's like
Oh my God, it's
Joan from. No,
it's
these
a-
are all
oh,
people
no.
that are here.
They're all people that are here. So and this gentleman's up next. And we certainly understand that we're over time if people need to go. But, sir.
Representative Keating, thank you very much for participating in this. But I have a question. I'm wondering when and if you might be getting together with your fellow colleague, Representative Al Green, and other colleagues to lay the groundwork for impeachment of President Trump. Which is the only thing that can be done to stop him, and will also let people know that the Democrats are doing something about Trump. And, you know.
I don't think I have to remind you. I joined so many other people. We've done that twice. No, people forget that. We've impeached, the House has impeached him twice when we had, well, 3 times, yeah. And I want to tell you this, that we weren't successful. Had we been successful, we were successful in the House. It passed the House. That's why they had the hearings in the Senate. And again, Mitch McConnell and other people, it was incredible. They could have stopped it then. They could have stopped this then. And I must say this, I think quicker action by the Democratic AG could have moved those court cases up. He's convicted 34 counts as a criminal. And that was delayed as well. Doing it now, he'll fundraise off of that. And he'll move it. And by the way, the second part of your comment was this. File the impeachment so that we can do something about it. It's not going to work. We don't have the numbers. I mean, when we had the numbers, it couldn't even work in the Senate. So he's doing things that are illegal. He's doing things that are bad. But impeachment won't work. It was done there for a reason, just this reason. But it's also, that's why so many people aren't signing on to it. We all believe it. This budget that we voted no on, there was only one Democrat out of, I think we're at 215 now, that voted no. We're pretty, despite our diversity in our party, when it comes to these issues, we're pretty united, and amazingly so, because we're putting some of those things aside for the greater cause here. And I think that what we saw, and the question was asked, about the Senate and Senator Schumer, this is not what we have to do. We can't be divided like that. And it's unfortunate that we all weren't on the same page. I had my view, it was different. But the impeachment thing, he will fundraise off that. And they will deal with it. And I wish we could. We should have the other time. When he did what he did to Ukraine, that was the first impeachment. We're absolutely withholding, Zelensky, who I've met several times, he was holding a gun to his head then and saying, if you didn't manufacture this story about Joe Biden and start that in your country, I may not give you this money that the Congress appropriated for you. He was doing these things in the first term, but there were certain guardrails then. The guardrails are gone. General Mark Milley isn't there. In fact, they're investigating him, which is outrageous. They've taken his security away from him, even though he's at number 2 in the Iran hit list. So the military has been co-opted. The judiciary's co-opted. They are going against any, and I was a DA, I don't know for those of you who remember, for 12 years, I was a DA in Norfolk County, and the rule of law is definitely being just run over in such a roughshod manner. And they're doing that in the Judiciary Department. The AG sitting there calling out a judge and the officials saying he should be impeached. They don't know what the definition of impeachment is. I had to laugh. One of my...
Ho, no crosstalk. This is a town hall for questions and answers, and there's a lot of people submitted, and Bill will do it.
So to your question, has he done enough to be impeached already? Yes. Is it the smart thing to do, or is it at all practical? No.
Now, to this lady's point over here, Bill, what I thought we would do next was, we got a ton of questions online, and I kid you not, 75% of them had to do with Doge. And you've started speaking to some of this a little bit, but there were 2 that sort of jumped out at me, and I mean, it's like Jennifer from East Falmouth, Deborah from Yarmouth, Carlene from Wareham, it's all, Stephen from New Bedford, Susan from Barnstable, it's all over the place, but it all seems to come down to checks and balances, to Doge, and to rule of law. And I didn't know if you wanted to speak to, as federal workers, how are we doing with handling with Doge? If you wanted to speak to that a little bit more specifically, now that we got some of the other questions out of the way.
Well, to the effect of Doge first, that was asked, it's really devastating. And we're getting the calls, we're getting the stories of people, probationary workers. There's a person in my district that worked for the public service for the government for 36 years. He had gotten a promotion and was technically probationary. He was fired after 36 years for doing nothing. These are illegal because you can't just fire people. They did say in Project 2025 how they were moving people from Schedule F, if you remember all that. They were undercutting civil service so the people would serve at the will of whoever it is, and it's obviously Donald Trump. And it's cutting our services. It's demoralizing the people that work for us. It's hurting our country in so many areas. You know, everyone praises veterans. My dad was a veterans agent. My uncle was killed in action, received the Silver Star. To me, it's my North Star. And good night. Good night.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Good night.
We have, no.
Good night.
All right, everyone,
night.
time out, time
Good
out.
night. Yeah.
We are
All
going
right.
to do this in a respectful way, and if we can't do it in a respectful way, then Trump has won. So we're going to ask everyone to be patient.
So
Everybody had a chance to submit their, and Bill's going to speak to this.
And we should talk about Medicaid, the second number one. So this one, with the effects of DOGE, it's really awful. And you know, people get up and they talk about veterans. 30% of our federal workforce are veterans. And half of them are disabled veterans. They're getting cut. The Veterans Administration is getting cut. There's no rhyme or reason to these cuts. People that are scientists are singled out in agencies, and they're starting agency by agency dealing with this. USAID, which I've worked with so hard over the years, where people that are there, and people don't understand the significance of what they're doing, the many things that they're doing. But if you don't care about anything, how would you like to see all that food just spoil away in warehouses and ships when he did this? He got that stopped quick enough, but he couldn't turn the plane around quick enough. But to see that happen and to see those people cut is demoralizing. But they're all either, too many of them took it's their own decision, took that early retirement, if you want to call it that. The court cases go forward, and one of the things, the difficulty, you know where they have to go to do those things? To the National Labor Relations Board. Trump took one of those people off. There's no quorum, disabled that board. But then the courts came in and said, you can't do that, and reinstated the person. But they have to go through that process. The thing is, these are people's lives. I don't know what they don't understand. These are public servants doing very important work. These are people that do things to keep our air clean, keep our water clean, keep our kids educated, keep us safe. And those people are just being decimated with these cuts. And the way he's doing it is illegal. He has no authority to do the things he's doing. And they're running roughshod over this. And one of the clips I had here is the Republicans have the House, they have the Senate, they have the White House. They can make all the cuts they want. They can do it, nothing could stop them. Why are they resorting to Elon Musk and this approach? One Republican said, because we have to act quickly because you people will be in power in 2 years. I hope. But the other thing is, they're cowards. They are cowards. There's no accountability. They don't want to make those cuts themselves. They don't agree with those cuts. That's why they're not coming to town hall meetings. That's why they're hiding. And they're saying that, and you know who's monitoring Elon Musk for conflicts and all of this? According to the White House, he's doing it to himself. He gets to choose himself. So he's doing these things, and there's no accountability there. If they did it the right way, and they were able to have hearings about these cuts, people would be able to have their voices heard. The way they're doing it is there's no timetable to do that. And that's why they're doing it this way. They're not only cutting Congress out, they're cutting people out of those cuts. And so that's what's so disastrous about what he's doing. And it's indefensible on legal grounds, on moral grounds, and on efficiency grounds.
All right, so Congressman, I know that we're running over time. And Medicaid was one of the questions I wanted to ask you.
Oh, you get to ask. All right.
Well, no, I'm referring to everything that's in here. There were a lot of questions, and I think everyone is wondering how we're going to do and deal with Medicaid, and that was one of the big themes that was in these questions that were submitted online.
We have a real problem with Medicaid and the cuts that are coming. We voted on I didn't vote for it, but and I don't think any Democrat voted for this, but prior to this last budget vote, there was a budget vote for the framework of how much we're going to spend and what areas they're going to be cut from. There's like little boxes that they give there. And Medicaid is targeted for massive cuts under those boxes. Now, the Republicans and the president say, there's no cuts to Medicaid. Where in that bill is there cuts in Medicaid? Well, they're cutting the agency, so of course they're going to cut Medicaid. It doesn't say the word Medicaid. They're cutting Medicaid. And in my district alone, over a quarter of the people in my district receive Medicaid. Over a quarter. 72 million people in the United States receive Medicaid. Medicaid's used to bolster Obamacare or the Affordable Care Act, whatever you want to call it, because it's helped people bridge that gap. It's taken people that had no insurance and allowed them to get insurance. And Medicaid is very important for our healthcare institutions here. I'll go because we're more in the South Shore, near Toby and everything, but South Coast Hospital is a DSH hospital with a disproportionate number of people that get our Medicaid and Medicare. In the Cape, for instance, it's Medicare, but there's still Medicare is important. It's going to have disastrous effect on our hospitals here. There'll be delays. There'll probably be people who lose their jobs and have to have their jobs cut, necessary jobs. They're understaffed as it is. And it's going to have an effect on the community health centers. I just talked to the executive director of New Bedford Community Health Center. She said she didn't know how she's going to survive going forward the way they are if they have these Medicaid cuts. And who's affected by this? Two groups more than any other group. Children and seniors. Nursing home care, that's Medicaid funded. Home health care, that's Medicaid funded. Trying to give people the chance, and how many people will have to stay home if there's not in-home care for Medicaid as well. Veterans, 10% of veterans receive Medicaid. This is all, in their cutting plan. And it's inefficient, it's ineffective, and it's going to be wasteful. But they did not want the Affordable Care Act. They're able to target it through the back door. And they're going to do things, how are they going to cut? That's to be determined. They can put caps, they can lower the rate, they can just tell states you're not getting as much money. In some states, I think Virginia is one of them, if there's any change in the Medicaid funding, then they pull all the Medicaid funding down. So this is what's happening with Medicaid, and it's serious. And it's something that I think of all the things that they've actually moved down the road to cut, that's going to be it. And they're going to, by the way, they're going to justify the Medicaid cuts. Get ready for this. This is one of their things. To say people have to show up. As they're cutting offices, cutting personnel, they're going to have to say people have to show up. 92% of the people on Medicaid are either fully employed or so disabled they can't do anything or in school. So you're looking at 92%, and the other percentage are people that are in the margins themselves. And if there's fraud there, let's deal with the fraud. But Medicaid is not fraudulent. Medicaid is necessary, and it's going to have a devastating effect, particularly on our district here.
So, Bill, we're way over time. You have kept the audience here. There are so many questions that we got online, so many questions that are still hands up. I don't want to keep people longer. Let's flip this around really quickly, because we've all been asking you questions. Let me ask this. What do you need from us? There's a room full of people with a ton of questions, a whole range of political spectrums, young, old, everyone in between. They came out on a work night for us. tell us, Bill, what can we do to help? Because that's what we're looking for, and how do we support you in all of these topics? What do you need from us, Bill?
Well, first of all, I want to thank you, as I did in the beginning. When I pulled up here and I saw that big line wrapped around going outside, it made me feel great, because I've got to tell you, I told you these things keep me up all night, and I could see the ramifications of what's going to happen. I can view down the road what could happen, and the biggest advantage they'll ever have in trying to accomplish this would be indifference and apathy. And I can't call to action. I'll be in trouble. But your being here, and you're doing this is so important, and it's also having an effect. It's also having an effect. And as I try and get through this, I just want to say how important your role is. We have the courts, we have Congress, we're undernumbered, but we're doing it. But you will turn the day. You're going to turn the tide. You will be the ones that do that. And you're making our case stronger every time you're involved. And it's not going to be easy, because 60% of the people now get their information through social media. 60% exclusively. And I don't know how many of you, this crowd probably watches a lot of cable shows. Only 20% of the people get their information from the cable shows, and 80% of those people get it from Fox. So the point is, in answer to the question, what can we do? We have to understand that, and we're not doing a good job as Democrats. People say, what are the Democrats doing? We're not doing as well as we should, dealing with social media. The last election should have shown us that. This continued election is going to show us that. We have to do better on social media. But I'd encourage people to use social media the best you can, and to be able to
Hold on. Let the congressman finish. No, let the congressman finish, ma'am.
So in answer to your question, get involved and do what you're doing here tonight, but also remember how people get their messages. Remember how America is talking with each other. And that social media is the Wild West because of algorithms and other things. We all know people here. I know people, and people that are wonderful people, my friends and everything. Sometimes I can't talk to them anymore about certain things. But, they're getting their information in this silo and nowhere else. And you try and deal with the facts, and they have an alternate fact universe. And it's so hard. But we have to cut through. And that's where we have to do a better job in Congress as well, on the Democratic side of the ledger. But what you could all do is realize how people are getting their news. And if you're going to communicate with other people, be careful. If you communicate with other people and things, do it through the way that people are getting their information.
Excellent. All right. Everyone, you have been fantastic, and I see all of the hands that have been raised, and I am grateful that everyone came out tonight to support the congressman. Remember, he wants to hear from you, and even though this isn't a forum where we can all manage to have our questions, email, call the office, grab a staffer, and thank you all for coming out and participating in the democratic process. Go to town meeting, vote. We are grateful that you came out on a work night. We are grateful that you stayed over time, and we are grateful for Congressman and his leadership, and I know you all have his back. Thank you, everybody. You're the best.